And MLB rounds out their top 10 right now series for 2025 with the top 10 left fielders in the game. I'm going to bring you my list, but I want to hear from you down in the comment section below. Who are your top 10 left fielders right now? Let's get into it. Coming in at number 10 on my list, I'm taking a flyer on a young player that played just 79 games in 2024, but it's James Wood of the Washington Nationals. When you look at the power process of this player, to me, this is going to be an absolute stalwart on this list for years to come. I think the Nationals have genuinely rebuilt their organization since the World Series of 2019 in such a big way with some of the trades that they've made. James Wood is one of those players that really allows them to look forward to the future of these next coming couple of seasons in a very positive way. I think that for the 2025 season, we are going to see a breakout campaign from this young player and really cement himself as one of the best left fielders in the game today. Now coming in at number 9 on my list is another young player, this time of the San Francisco Giants, Elliot Ramos. When you look at what Ramos can be, I think that there's a lot of hype around this player, and I think that it is going to all come to fruition in 2025. I think that there is a lot to like about his skill set and what he is capable of doing, and especially when you think about the expansive ballpark that is Oracle Park in San Francisco, there's no doubt this is a guy who absolutely can transcend on a power perspective all the way through this organization. I think that going forward into the 2025 season, there's no doubt that Elliot is going to be a guy that is going to be prominently featured in that lineup, and for good reason. In this countdown for me, I think this is another young guy that I want to take a flyer on in 2025 because I genuinely believe in the skill set so highly. Now, as we get to number 8 on my list, it is a proven player on this top 10 left fielders list, Reynolds of the Pittsburgh Pirates. This has been one of the more consistent players over the last several years, and while he may not be at the upper echelon that we once thought he might be, this has been a genuinely very good ball player for a long time, and without a doubt, in my opinion, one of the more consistent, and that's why he ends up on my list. I think that for Reynolds, the young Pirates team that they're building around him is obviously built on pitching and defense, and Reynolds provides that. And while he's also capable of giving you an offensive output, this to me is going to be a guy that is an all-around talent. Just a few years ago, before the extension with Pittsburgh, this was a guy that was highly sought after when it came to the trade market. You don't have a talent that highly sought after by several teams if there is not something behind it. To me, Reynolds is going to be able to put a bigger stamp on his career in 2025 and is going to be a very good year to be a Buccos fan. Now coming in at number 7 is a personal favorite of mine, and it is Ian Happ of the Chicago Cubs. To me, Ian has been one of the more underrated talents in Major League Baseball, and I think that he still hasn't yet even found the highest level, the highest gear that he is capable of achieving in this great sport of baseball. I think that for Happ, the switch hitter and Gold Glove caliber outfielder is someone that for the first few years of his career moved around a lot, but found himself and cemented himself as the everyday left fielder. I think that for Chicago, being able to have this player in the middle of their order is someone that has been consistent and very good for them. Obviously, being able to be a bit better on the offensive side of things is going to be something that he is going to continue to strive to do. But there's no doubt when you look at his defensive capabilities that he is among the upper echelon at this position. I think that going into 2025, we start to see more of that offense catch up to the defense for Happ, and that's why he makes my list. Now, as we get into number 6 on my list, it is one of the young stars of this game, Jackson Chourio of the Milwaukee Brewers. There's no doubt that going into the 2025 season, the Brewers are in a position where that National League Central Division is going to be much more competitive. Having a guy like Jackson Chourio in the middle of that lineup, the heart of that order, is going to be a guy that they are really going to rely on in a big way in 2025. I think that Chourio had a rough start in 24, but really came back from the minor leagues with a reinvigorated spirit and put himself in a position where this was one of the best players, not just on the Brewers, but in baseball. I think that going into the 2025 season, we're going to see more of that maturation process, and he's going to find himself really rising up and escalating up this list going into 2026. I think that for the Brewers, Jackson Chourio is going to be heavily featured and a prominent member in the heart of that order, and that's why he makes my top 10 left fielders list. Now, as we get into the number 5 player on my list, I genuinely believe in this player very highly. Riley Greene of the Detroit Tigers, to me, is going to be one of the best players across all of Major League Baseball, regardless of position, in 2025. The biggest thing right now for Riley Greene is maintaining health. If Riley Greene can stay healthy, there's no doubt to me that he is going to be one of the key features of a Detroit Tigers team that is looking to not just push back to the postseason in 2025, but also cement themselves amongst the top team, as the top team in that very wide open American League Central Division. To me, there's 4 teams in that division that absolutely could walk away as the division champion, and Riley Greene can really push the Tigers ahead of the rest of this division. To me, there's no doubt when you look at what this player is capable of, the skill set that he has, this is a guy you want to build your franchise around. And in doing so, as long as he can stay healthy, again, that's the biggest key for Riley Greene in my opinion. If he can stay healthy, this is a guy that absolutely can put this team on his back and really carry them to the postseason and potentially even further than that. So for me, Riley Greene is a very key piece in the left field market for the 2025 season. Now, as we get into number 4 on my list, we remain in that American League Central with the Cleveland Guardians' Steven Kwan. Kwan has been one of the more underrated talents and one of the more consistent players in terms of the defensive capabilities that he is able to achieve. I think that offensively, this is a guy that has yet to reach his full potential. And while I don't think of him as a prolific home run hitter from this power position, this is a guy that, much like with a guy like Luis Arraez on the first base side, is a guy that is a consistent hitter and not looking to be the prolific power that you expect from this position. And while not the typical power player, there's no doubt about the power in his skill set. For Steven Kwan, defense, base running, and the ability to put the ball in play is something that genuinely translates across all of Major League Baseball. I think that for Steven Kwan, this 2025 season is going to see him get back to being the healthy player that he once was and really put himself right back into the upper echelon of this list. Obviously, being at number 4 is not a slouch position, but for me, I think that there's even more capabilities coming out of this player if he can get back to playing 100, 155, 160 games in this season. So for me, Steven Kwan comes in at number 4 for 2025. As we get into number 3, it is the new left fielder of the Atlanta Braves, Jurickson Profar. When you think about what Jurickson can be for the Atlanta Braves, there's no doubt about it that this is a player that absolutely transcends the game. When you look at what he is capable of doing, the versatility that he is able to employ, not just in the batter's box being a switch hitter, but also the different places that he can play throughout the course of the lineup, there's no doubt this is a guy you absolutely would love to have on your team. Going into the 2025 season, Jurickson Profar is a guy who has the capabilities, as we saw in 2024, to be one of the better players in all of baseball. I think that there's going to be a transition, obviously, moving from San Diego to Atlanta, but I think that there's going to be very little that is going to affect him negatively in that move. I think that the team that is in Atlanta that is going to really help him blossom to take his career to an even higher level than what we saw in 2024. There's no doubt about it when you look at those 2024 numbers. This is a guy who absolutely was slept on across Major League Baseball. The fact that he picked up just a 1-year deal with San Diego in 2024, there's no doubt that there's absolute lack of understanding. And even as long as it took for even the Braves to pick him up this offseason, this is a guy who absolutely can provide your team with a ton of run support, both on the offensive side of things, and while not yet a tremendous defender, this is still a guy who provides you with a lot on the defensive side because of that versatility. Going in, probably playing left field every single day for Atlanta is going to be something new in that ballpark for him, but this is going to be a guy that you can rely on at the top of the order for an Atlanta Braves team that is looking to get back to being the number 1 team in the National League East. Now, as we get into the number 2 player, it is the Boston Red Sox, Jarren Duran. Now, when you look at what this guy is, there's no doubt about it that he can rub some people the wrong way. But talent-wise, there's no denying this player. I think that going into the 2025 season, we saw a player in 2024 that is really going to put himself even further and cement himself even more amongst the upper echelon of players in Major League Baseball. Duran has all the skill sets to be one of the best and most elite players in Major League Baseball, regardless of position. I think that there's a lot to really love watching this player in on a nightly basis. His skill set is going to be able to translate from center field to left field, in my opinion, even better, because I think that with having less field to cover, this is going to be a guy who's able to really translate his defense even greater than what we saw in center. When you look at his offensive profile, this is a guy who's going to be at the top of the order, really causing a lot of problems for pitchers early in the game. The aggressiveness that this player plays with is without a doubt one of the best in terms of that aggressive level across Major League Baseball. You also have to understand that this player is going to play with a passion that cannot be quenched. And for me, that really cements him very highly in my book on this list. And that's coming from a Yankee fan giving a Red Sox the biggest nod. As we get into the number 1 player on my list, it is Yordan Alvarez of the Houston Astros. Speaking of giving nods to players, as a Yankee fan, giving Yordan the number 1 spot is a very easy decision to make. Yes, there's going to be a lack of defensive capabilities with this player. Realistically, this should be a guy that, as I've nicknamed him before, Little Poppy, this should be a DH. But as he falls into the left field category, especially with the short left field porch with the Crawford boxes, this is the guy you can kind of mask in that spot. Yordan's offensive capabilities, though, are second to none, and that's why he's number 1 on this list. Not only to be able to be a prolific power hitter, but to also be a guy that can hit for average, that has the ability and the baseball IQ of situational hitting. There's no doubt Yordan Alvarez is amongst the upper echelon of players in Major League Baseball. A healthy 2025 season, in my opinion, will see Yordan Alvarez get back to finishing in the top 5, top 3 even of the AL MVP race. I think that when you look at what this player does, there is no doubt in my mind this is one of the best players in baseball. In my opinion, one of the most underrated players in baseball because he is often overlooked. Yes, this is not a guy that at present moment has the name notoriety of a David Ortiz, has the name notoriety of a Frank Thomas, one of the prolific designated hitters in the game. But when you look at what he does and you watch and you study his form, this is a guy that is absolutely going to cement himself as long as he can stay healthy with those type of players. This is a player to me whose ability at the plate really is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Yes, it is early to say that. It is early to put that on him. But that's how highly I believe in this player's talent. To me, Yordan Alvarez is without question the number 1 left fielder in the game because of what he does so prolifically at the home plate batter's box. So I want to hear from you, baseball fans. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings down in the comment section below. Who would you place in your top 10 left fielders in the game today? Let me know that down in the comments and we can chop it up some more. Make sure you keep it locked in here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast by hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell for post notifications so that each and every time we drop new content here on this YouTube channel, you will be notified. We have a lot of new things coming, so make sure you stay tuned as I'll be bringing you some news in the very near future on the future of this channel. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Make sure you follow me on social media, on X at @banter_baseball. Everywhere else is Baseball Banter Broadcast. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.